Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Directors Roundtable. I'm your host, Luke Launer from Sheeran Entertainment, and tonight we have a couple of special guests with us. We've got Steve Sheeran and Dean Kirkright, two Melbourne-based actors. And so I thought I'd change it up a little bit tonight. Instead of doing last episode, we was centered around directors and producing and things like that, and I was asking a bunch of questions related to that. I thought I'd break it up and talk a little bit about acting and the acting scene in Melbourne, things like that. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go around to each of you. You can pick and choose who you want to do. We can start with Dean or Steve first, whoever. Just basically, just give a short introduction of who you are. Give a little bit of a brief background on yourself, if you've done any further study and things like that. So who wants to start? I won't go this time because I did it in the last episode, so it should be fine.
Yeah. Who's jumping in? You there, Dean?
Yeah, you can go for it, Steve.
He's gone shy.
You can go for it.
Oh, right, okay. All right, thanks. Yeah, I'm in the deep end. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see. So, brief introduction. Melbourne-based actor, presenter, voice artist. And I always, whenever I'm doing these introductions, I always feel as if my acting journey started when I went off and did professional training, which was in 2012. And I trained at the Howard Fine Acting Studio. And then I sort of, for the first time in my life, felt like I knew some other actors. And before then, I'm from the Mornington Peninsula. And before then, I didn't know where to start to begin to learn how to act. And so my story usually begins there, because before then I'd done every course you could do around the peninsula. That was anyone that was doing an acting course, I'd go and do those. So that was 2012. And then I did masterclasses and scene study and that sort of thing since then. And then I got to work. Is that enough of a background?
That's pretty good, yeah. Yep. So I suppose there's another little follow-up question. So like, I don't know if you talked about it, but so how did it all start for you? How did you get into doing? How did you know you wanted to be an actor and things like that?
I didn't originally know I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a director, and I was in love with cinema and have been watching movies ever since I was a boy, and was fascinated with the storytelling. And every time I'd watch the behind-the-scenes featurettes or anything to do with filmmaking, I always thought it was interesting how directors talked about their actors and how they collaborated with them, and how some actors were easier or harder to work with or different, and all of those things. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be a great director, I want to understand actors. And I always respected the craft and was fascinated by it. And but I never sort of thought I'd be an actor. And then as soon as I started learning about it and how difficult it was, I just loved the challenge. I thought it was the best thing ever. And ever since then, I've been charmed by acting.
Yep. Did you ever do any directing, or was it strictly, did you start and then you go, and then halfway through where you're like, I don't know if this was for me, or I like more of the acting side? And
I really liked directing, and I've always thought, one day I'll come back to that. Over the years, people have asked me, do you direct? And I always just say, I'm not opposed to it. Not opposed to it at all. I think it'd be rather fun. I made some short films when I was younger, had the family handy cam and made projects and bit off more than I could chew, and just had this epic scale projects. And one I'm really proud of. That's in a drawer somewhere. But no, I'm just not known as a director. And so I had a great experience directing that. It made me feel really confident about storytelling, and I guess I've just never come back to it. There's so much in acting that I find fulfilling and exciting and challenging. I've just never got round to directing. But if the circumstances came to be, I've found myself producing and doing crew elements and getting involved when I'm asked, whether it's needed. I love it. I love the whole thing. But I guess at some point you got to say, I'm this, so people think of you as that, or they don't think of you as anything.
Yeah, and no, that's good. Yeah, and we'll get Dean on. What do you think?
We're gonna get Dean on.
Yes,
Got to get Dean on. You're a beautiful man, Steve. I love your stories. Um, look, I fell into the deep end to the acting side of things very late. I was 24 years old. I lived with an actor. I recited like Titanic scenes and stuff like that, like mucking around, previous, but I lived with an actor, and one day he went away and I got drunk and he left his camera behind, and I started filming myself, and I forgot all about it. I was drunk and I was filming myself, and that actor later on saw that footage and he said, "Holy shit, bro, you're actually really good. You should do this." And of course he took me to what was called TAFTA. I think it is still called TAFTA. It was TAFTA, it was John Allsix classes. And we were to do a scene. It was called a screen test workshop, and you were to do a scene in front of the casting agent, and you get 5 agents or 4 agents over 5 weeks or whatever it is. And I did a scene, and her name was Jodie McKenna, I think. Anyway, whoever it was, she cast Blue Heelers, and she basically said to the class, um, "Dean, after I did my scene, and I was nervous as hell. She goes, 'Okay, everyone, what Dean just did was perfect. He's going to be on Blue Heelers this year,' and I was. I got cast not long after that.
Oh wow,
So I sort of fell right into
that's
the deep
awesome.
end. And then
Yeah, really funny.
obviously,
So
yeah,
I was just saying, really funny story about that, mate. I remember many years ago now when I was living on the farm. I reckon I was still at high school or something like that, and I was doing my homework. And I used to have a television in my room, and I remember I used to watch Blue Healers and All Saints and things like that on a weekly basis. And I remember that episode that you were in, and I actually didn't know
yeah,
you at that time. But it's just it's just isn't that weird? You know how uncanny it is. How
yeah. Well, look, I didn't realize there was more to it. I didn't realize, I didn't, I just thought you just rock up and you just do the scenes, but I didn't realize there was rehearsals and reading off a page. I'm not a very good reader. I was never a good reader at school. And I remember going to the first rehearsals, and there was a circle of chairs, and all you actors out there that are watching this will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's friggin' scary doing a table read. And I just thought, what's this? And we sat down and we had to cold read the episode. And they said they did that whole little thing that we just love, and they said, "Let's go around the room and introduce yourself." And I reckon I got halfway around the room, and I just went, "Yeah, I can't do this. No, hell no." And I went, "No, breathe. I'll get through this." And I got through that read through, and it was funny because a guy walked up to me in the read through and said, "You look great. You've got a great look," because I had blonde hair. And he goes, "You look great for a TV commercial." And I scored a $3,500 Gamblers Help commercial, which was perfect the same day. So, so this
oh my
actor guy
goodness.
who I lived with, who I won't name, he's gone on to have a pretty successful career. But he hated me. He was like, "Seriously, bro, what the hell? I haven't got, I don't get any work. And here you are just rocking up and getting all this work." But he's had a very, very good career, so he's all right. So that's how I fell into it. I got the bug, and then all of a sudden it just went crazy from then in. So I haven't really done theatre. Um, it freaks me out a little bit doing it in front of people. But I've done a lot of film and television. So that's so 2005 to about 2020. I've done a lot of film and television. Yeah.
and what's the thing you guys enjoy the most about acting or playing a character or portraying something
Storytelling,
like that? What's the thing you
telling
enjoy
a
the
story.
most? Yep.
Yeah, Steve. So I don't know what you think. I think storytelling is just a wonderful, like it's just great to tell a story. You know?
It is the perfect answer. It is the answer, storytelling, and I think it frustrates people when they hear that from actors. So I don't think it's enough, but it is the answer. Storytelling.
Yeah,
It's I totally agree. But okay. So what's storytelling? Well, how do we make that a bit more meaty for anyone listening? What's storytelling? But for me, I think I love being a cog in this epic machine, and the size of this machine is really not seen at all by any viewers, and I love being part of that. There's something about the insignificance of it and also how essential everyone is. Because without all the different roles, even in front of camera or behind, the cog doesn't turn, it cannot operate. And, actors get a lot of glory and limelight and spotlight and all that sort of stuff. But I think, um, I think, ultimately, when you're on set, none of that crap matters whatsoever because we're there to tell a story, and that's the job, right? And that is the
that's right.
focus. And I think that's why Dean's saying that, because, yeah, that's the part a lot of people don't see. I saw a meme on my phone yesterday. I think John McCullough put it on his social media. I think it was John, and it was a. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a pyramid, and it
I
says
saw
like,
that one. Yeah,
do you
very
see that?
accurate. Very accurate. It is. Yeah.
Do you want to articulate it?
It's basically like it's the Titanic iceberg. I call it. It's so you so it's think of a pyramid, right? The tip is the success that people see, and the layers that make up the pyramid or the iceberg is all the pain and the suffering and the torture and all the everything, all the work, the
All the
hard
work.
behind the scenes
Yeah,
Yeah.
in order to get that finished product.
Yeah.
That's the way
And
yeah,
I
so
look at it.
that's what I was intimating of the viewer sees this part, and
Yeah.
and I guess that's the story they see. But when we say storytelling, it's, it's all the work.
Uh, Now, because I do filmmaking and I dabble a little bit in acting, it's something that I like as well. I wouldn't class myself as an actor, but I have done a bit of acting. Well, I've been in pretty much every one of my films and things like that. Now, uh, with me, I don't know if it's the filmmaker side of things kicking over or whatever, but I feel like when I make a film or I write a script or something like that, I have a character in mind of something that I want to film or do, as I mentioned in the last episode, kind of. So, for example, The Count, I really wanted to make a film about a serial killer, and I wanted to actually play that character because I didn't at the time. I believed that I could do it, and I didn't have any faith, or probably because I was young and I didn't really know too many people, things like that. It's like a gold. Do you guys get that? It's like a gold aura. I always put it down as like a gold aura around that particular. You just know you can do it. You know you can. You know.
I'll just jump in there. So yeah, so with the characters that I've played, I've always found that the characters come along the journey. I find that character along the journey. And I'll give you an example. I've just recently started working on something, and when I was reading it and I was learning it, I had no idea how I was going to play it. I had no idea. And then when I started bouncing off the other actors in the scenes, the character slowly started to come. When I put the clothes on, the character started to come. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to walk differently. I'm talking differently because I'm bouncing off them. I don't know what the other guys are going to do in the scene. So it's the same as when I played Dax Braddock. When I played Dax, when I got told I was going to be a sergeant, in my mind, I don't feel like I look like a sergeant, a police sergeant. But when you start bouncing off the characters and then you grab that, you slowly become that character over a journey, and that's how you find the character, and it slowly you become this character. Whereas a lot of the time, this is just off personal experience. When I read it on the page, I'm like, like sometimes you get murdery characters or like freaking scary characters, and I'm like, I can't do that. But you become the character over the journey, and that's why it's sad when it ends because like, oh, it's only just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now, is it the same as? Do you guys agree with this? What was I going to say? Uh, It usually starts with like for example, I started to find the character of Jericho when I had the scar on my face. All it took was a bit of makeup. That's all it took. Or it might have been the tattoos on my arms that the makeup artist did, or the singlet. Uh, is it the same for you guys when you find a character? Like, does it take? Is it the clothing? Is there something that kind of triggers you to get that you're getting into the character and things like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, clothing's big for me. I think people have warmed up to that idea a bit more over the years. Some people find it a bit, they think, oh, what does it matter? We haven't done wardrobe yet. We're not designed, we're not ready for that yet. But I've even created my own wardrobe way before wardrobe's done at times, and either offered that as part of wardrobe or just used it in my own private work, so I could spend more, a little bit like Dean's saying, with time with the character. The more time in the circumstances, or then yeah, you start to evolve. You start to become the character, I've found. And wardrobe's huge. Wardrobe, yeah, it's a massive one. I think one of the most important.
Like there was an example. I was watching. I don't know if you guys have seen the series, The Penguin with Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell plays the Penguin in this series, and he said that the transformation. He said all it took was the prosthetic nose that they put on him. It was the makeup for him to just fully. Just felt like he could embody that character just through the makeup alone. Like it might have been, the prosthetic nose or something like that. It just took something to try to happen for him to find the character, to engulf and become and play and muck around. And I suppose that was the same with Heath Ledger and the Joker and things like that as well.
Yeah, look, it's just everything changes on the day. They call it on the day, which means when they go for a take, because you have this idea of how you're going to do it and all that sort of stuff, and then you rock up, and the director says, "Oh, by the way, this is how you're going to do it." And you're like, "Ooh, okay, that's not how I pictured it." And then everything changes, and all of a sudden you're moving differently, you're talking with more energy or less energy, and everything changes on the day. So you've got to be prepared to have that sort of flexibility. You can't learn it one way. That's why I love learning lines, and I don't know if we're going up to another question here, but I love learning lines outside walking. I can never sit and learn. I have to be walking and learning out in the park somewhere. So, yeah.
I'm exactly the same, Dean. Exactly the same. I go for a walk endlessly, jog, and
Yeah.
get the words into my body. Yep, exactly the same. Yeah, no, I don't know if I could. Yeah, I don't know if I could just sit on a couch and learn lines.
No.
I don't know if they'd be in there enough for me.
Well,
One of the
you
things
can't
I
do that
did
when
when
you
I when
become,
I
yeah, you go.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
Luke.
What I was going to say was when I was in the earlier days, I used to hate writing. Every time I would write, I just couldn't get the dialogue right. It sounded weird and fake. So what I used to do is I used to use a lot of the what I've written as a blueprint. And what I would do is I would, if I could get away with doing improvisation, I would do that. And I remember one of the things I did to do with the Jericho thing, like we originally had a script for that film, and then we basically threw it out because it just sounded weird. On the day we were just experimenting with improv and things like that. So we knew the structure, the base plate of the whole film, but I just eventually threw the script out, and then we winged it. And I remember I used to walk an hour to work. I used to work up at this like industrial estate, Mayfair Park, they call it in Bendigo, and I would that whole hour I'd just be like talking like just like a nutcase, like a psychopath and things like that. And I think that helped me as well and stuff like that as well.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
pretty cool.
And if I can give a pointer out, I don't know if we're doing this or not, but for those of you who are starting out in acting and all that sort of stuff, don't muck around with your lines. Don't joke around with your lines. I'll give you an example. There's a scene where I had to arrest another police officer in a show. And when I was learning the scene with my wife at home, I said, I'm going to need your gun and your badge. And then she added, and your undies and your bra. And when I got there on the day doing this scene in a professional environment, all I could think about was saying, and your bra and your undies, or whatever it was, because my wife kept on saying that jokingly. So don't joke around with the lines. It comes to haunt you back when you're about to do the scene. And trust me, if I had said that to her on the day, I'd be in trouble. But I wouldn't. Yeah, it was just full on because you're learning it that way. And yeah, so don't muck around lines.
Now, I was going to ask you, like, we did speak a little bit about schooling and further study and things like that. Now, what's your views? What's your take on? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? What's your view on like going to acting schools and classes and things like that? Do you think it helps? Like,
This is one of the reasons I think it's great we have Dean and I, because
I'm thinking the same thing.
Right? Because, and
Yeah.
I thought about this when Luke mentioned that there would be the three of us. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
Because
completely different training.
Dean, by the way, yeah, completely. Dean and I are completely different. And the reason I know this is because I've known Dean a long time, and I'm not the housemate from the anecdote earlier, but Dean and I were housemates for some time.
yeah,
We were.
Okay.
yeah, I know.
Good times.
And yeah, yeah, the best, right? I wish it went
That's
for
good.
longer. And
I know.
I often think, and we should talk to this because Dean and I have two totally different approaches to life, right? And I'm fascinated by this man, because I greatly admire you, Dean, and we haven't even spoken privately for ages, right? But
No.
maybe this is thrusting us back into each other's lives, and I hope it is.
Yes.
But getting back to your point, Luke, is I went and did a lot of training, and Dean went and did a lot of work, and Dean's done a lot more professional work than I have. Okay, and I'll be the first to say it because that's just how it is. So I've done loads of training, right? I'm not shy on that, and I loved every minute of it, and I think it was very beneficial for me finding my technique to approach work. But and I'll let Dean talk in a minute, as we just heard from Dean, even from the get-go, there's just something about this guy people love. That just like happens upon a $3,000 commercial, happens upon blue heelers, right? This is just the nature of the industry. But do you want to speak to a bit of this, Dean?
Look. So I basically got. There's two roads you could go down at the start. I could go down the road of like learn, training, and then become really successful later on, or I could spend 3 to 6 months doing short film, and getting stronger in front of the camera and doing it. So then it's like training. When the actual, professional paid gig comes up, it's like, there's a camera, boom, I'm ready to go. Now, it could work both ways, but I was cheeky. I did a bit of both. I didn't do the full-time courses. I would do like a 9-week course, short film, and another 9-week course. And that's how I sort of worked my way into the industry. And then all of a sudden, you know everyone. And I also did one thing differently as well. I actually decided to run my own classes at my house. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a teacher. But all it was let's get together and let's just do scenes. I'm not going to be the teacher. We're all teachers here. And that's networking, and it was free, and it didn't cost anything. All you have to do is bring a plate of food. That was it. At the end. And yeah, that was just my little way of
great times, yeah.
Great times. And you know what? It got people out of the house on a Wednesday night or whatever it was. And all of a sudden, Joe Blow goes, "Hey, what are you doing? Can you be in my short film?" And we're just going from thing to thing. And all of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, I'm on a professional shoot here." Yeah. So
Can we?
Tool. Yeah.
That was before we knew each other, Dean, but it's a fascinating subject to me. And I want to know between both of you, do you think the landscape has changed, and what I mean by that is I used to go to Tom Vogel's nights, West Side Shorts, and I think that might be
Oh
where
yeah,
we met, Luke. Maybe
yeah.
I used to go to West Side. No, where do
I'll
we
tell you
meet?
I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay,
Dean
all right.
might find this fascinating.
I'll
Okay.
bookmark where I was, and you go
All
for
right.
it.
Yeah. All right. So when I first started off doing film, right, I was doing all this other animation crap at the time. I didn't know I wanted to be a filmmaker, things like that. I was trying to find myself. I wanted to fix computers. I wanted to do building, things like that. Anyway, like I said, you've heard the story in my last episode where I was looking up film equipment and I saw a banner and it was a 1 week hands-on practical film course. And I went down to Melbourne and I did that course. And I come back and I started writing my own script and organising and all that type of stuff. Now, I met you, Steve. The very first night I ever met you was Matthew Cleaves, the director. He did a short film called Radev, and Steve was actually in that film. He actually had
That was with that other guy who Liam McIntyre,
Liam
wasn't it?
McIntyre.
Was he in
Spartacus,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, with Lynn.
Yeah.
He went on to do
Yes.
Spartacus, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I saw this. I don't know if he put a trailer up or something. Anyway, he said he's having a screening. Anyway, I looked at this trailer and I thought, oh my god, this is friggin' amazing. This looks like $1 million. This looks so good. I got to go down and check this film out. So I took the V-Line bus from Bendigo down to Melbourne, and you guys had it playing kind of near the heart of Melbourne there, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I got off and I walked. And I remember it was this tiny little cinema, I remember. And we watched this film, and you guys were all in there and stuff. And anyway, we come out, and I'm just sitting there looking like this, looking at everyone, and I'm kind of shitting myself, a bit nervous. I know I need to go up and talk to people, things like that. Anyway, I saw Matthew Cleaves, I saw George Clip, and another guy, Ben McNamara, I think his name was. Anyway, they were all talking, and I got talking with them. Then you come out, Steve, with I think John McCulloch was there, and I don't think Chloe was there that night. And Liam came late. He come and I actually met him for a little bit. But that was the very first time we ever met, Steve. Was at that screening. And then and then over time, I think we've seen each other at West Side. Obviously. I've gone to your places a million times, things like that. I used to work down there a bit and stay at your house, and we used to have great times, and it was good.
That's so cool. I didn't know that, and I'd just forgotten about that night, in my own life. So that's so cool for you to.
You're one of the very first people that I met that basically got me introduced into the film industry and networking.
Oh wow!
So.
Wow.
I'm kind of indebted to you, Steve, a little bit, mate.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't an asshole that night.
No, you were very professional.
Was I was I? So that was a bit of out of character that night. Yeah, okay. All right, sorry
John,
about that.
And I thought I'm going to get John in me film, and that's what happened. It's networking and meeting people.
That's fun. Well, so back to my bookmark. Oh, we froze there. Back to my bookmark. Can we go back?
Yeah, mate. Yep, go back. Yep.
I really want to hear your thoughts on this, both of you guys, because I don't know whether it's an age thing or what. Has it all changed? We don't have West Side Shorts anymore. Dean doesn't have people round, bring a plate, doing things like that anymore. And I'm talking about way before COVID. I'm talking about just generally. Where are these avenues? Do people just have to go to formal classes now? Where's this really light social way to meet people in the industry, albeit amateur or semi-professional people, where people are starting or wanting to work? Where is it?
I can't answer that.
Quick, Dean, before you chip in, or I can answer.
I can't answer it, so you go for it.
I think Dean and I, because we talk regularly on the phone and things like that, and I think one of the things we even said that it feels different. The film industry feels different. It doesn't feel like it used to feel, where we're networking and the energy and meeting people and that. I don't know if it's just that I don't know, like I'm in my prime then, and I'm building up. I don't know if I'm a bit more, and then all the circumstances of everything that's happened and things like that. I don't know if I've just become a bit more mature about things, or but yeah, it does. It feels like the whole thing. I don't know. Like I know Dean brings a lot of energy with everything he does. Like he just he's I don't know. It's like he just sees into the future. He's just like
I can imagine that
you
there's
know what I mean.
people
Like
watching this right now and they're like, where are you guys, man? Where are you guys? Been hiding under a rock? We go to the so-and-so and we meet and we bring a plate. I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
right. We're not invited.
I think you're just so inspiring, mate, and you just set your mind to something. You just
Thanks,
make
mate.
it happen, and you just do it.
Make
You
it
know what I mean?
happen.
And
Make it happen.
I miss that. Well, we need more of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I think people like you, Dina, are just a rare breed. You know what I mean? Like I just don't feel like people have that same push or that incentive to see a vision and go for it and do it because you made shit happen. You know what I mean? Like you said, let's get a bunch of people together and shoot scenes and mingle.
yeah,
Like
and
you
it
don't
was cool.
realize how much of an impact that had. Yeah,
And I
Yeah.
actually created a lot of friendships as well. Like I remember just like a lot of girls meeting other girls and becoming best mates, and friendships, and and they've gone off to become, film working in other films and other projects, and that's another reason why I did it as well, so people can meet and become friends, I guess. Um, yeah, so I'm not really in the loop at the moment because I sort of retired from the industry a while back now, since it's 2021, and I've just sort of fell straight back into the industry by being offered another role in something. So I'm getting to meet all these new, younger people. I'm the old guy now. I'm the dad. I'm the dad in the show.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're meeting these young people, and nothing's changed in that sense. You've still got the sound guy telling his stories, and you got the camera person doing his thing. Everyone's the same. It's actually really cool. I miss it. I miss the socializing just
yeah,
before you're about to go for a take, and you're meant to be concentrating, but yeah, you
yeah.
really want to hear this sound guy story. Um, so I
Yeah,
do miss
I
all that.
lost a good I lost a good portion of my life too with my mental health and things like that. I lost it like 6 years plus, and now I'm just starting to slowly do things
But
again.
look at you now. Look at you
And I
now.
think
You
life
you're
gets
doing
in the
this
way,
show.
doesn't it? Yeah,
You're doing the show.
yeah,
How good.
exactly. Yeah,
You created
I'm
this.
improving. Yeah, I'm getting better. Yeah. Now,
Awesome.
just getting back to I'm going to give my little spiel on what I think with the study and the further study and things like that. Now, I'm a bit like you, Dean. I prefer to actually go out and and learn and make films and learn that way. But I always look at film and study. I do a little bit on the side as well, just short courses and things like that. And I always feel like I don't know if I get anything from it, maybe a little bit, but I always look at it as a way of like refining what I've learned, or just fine tuning my skills, things like that. So that's kind of where I sit on with further study and things like that. I think it has its
I'll just
place.
jump in there.
I
I've
don't
seen.
know
Okay,
whether. Oh yeah,
we talk about getting thrown in the deep end, right? And I'm not trying to blow smoke, but there's some things I've seen Steve Sheeran do that I would friggin' never do in class. I've seen when you sang, and I remember the New York song you
Oh,
sang, in front of an
oh
audience. I
yes.
could never do that. You had to sing. It was one of the things. You had to sing in front of the audience, and that was one of the class. Um, I remember you singing that song. I was like, I could never do that. Oh my god, that's crazy.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so so don't get me wrong. Like Steve's been thrown in the deep end too with the study side of things. So maybe when he jumps into a professional production, like a big huge film, like um, Fury Road or whatever it is, you'll be ready to go.
you don't think you don't.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this. You don't think too much study can cloud the judge, like cloud your creativity and things like that. What's your views
Oh,
on that?
I want to chime in. I want to chime in.
Yeah, mate. You go for it.
Uh, I think, I think, this is why it's great having all three of us chatting, because there's no one way to do any of it, right? And you have to find out what works for you. which sounds like an old cliche, but I don't know if it's truer. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's more truer than in entertainment. You have to find your way of doing it because you're the
Yeah,
instrument,
yeah,
and that maybe
agree.
that's why it's so unique.
I
But
agree
on
with
the
that,
subject,
Steve.
yeah,
It's
and
even the
so there's
same as
no one way.
filmmaking too.
Yeah, right. And it would be the same as a director. Maybe that's the same for all creatives. I can't
Trying to
speak to
find
all that. I
yourself.
can only speak to my pursuits. But I think there's always going to be a class out there. And there's always going to be the need for classes, and there will always be someone happy to teach you. But I remember here's an anecdote about how it's important to work as well, because the end goal's not to just keep studying forever. Okay.
Yep.
I was in the car with my acting coach Howard Fine one time, dropping him off somewhere, and on that week, this was during the full-time year, and I don't think I've ever shared this anecdote, but I think it's valuable. I was stirring, feeling awkward. I'm like, oh, do I bring this up? Do I bring this up? And I said, Howard, I got something to tell you. And I said, I can't come into class on, it was Wednesday or Thursday. I'm sorry. I know I'm dedicated. I just want you to know how much I appreciate your time and the class. I can't come in. He said, why? I said, I'm shooting a commercial and I'm sorry. And he burst out laughing and he said, oh no, how terrible. You wouldn't be able to come into class because you're working professionally.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
it really reassured me. And he could see, I was just like guilt ridden. I didn't want him to think that I wasn't grateful for the opportunity to work with Howard Fine, right? And we're good mates, but when I'm in the classroom, I'm the professional student. And I never forgot that because it just gave me just a total release of understanding the whole end goal is to work professionally. Now, this was just a
Yeah,
commercial. It wasn't a film, but I probably wouldn't have taken on a film and abandoned the full-time course, but a couple of days. And Howard felt the same. You should be using what you're learning, be it on set or in class, and then applying that to work. That's a
Yep.
good thing.
Yep.
That's the
yep,
thing.
Exactly right. Yep.
So I don't know if that anecdote's valuable to you guys, to anyone listening, but it changed my perspective forever. I just felt great about working, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to let some other people down to work.
yeah.
So I suppose we touched base on this a little bit. So what's the very first thing you kind of do when you get a script or someone kind of offers you a
I'll
role?
I'll jump in.
Can you
So
take us into just a yeah,
yeah, so basically, what happens is when you get a script, it becomes extremely overwhelming, especially if you're the protagonist of the film or the show or whatever, and you have a lot to do. And I remember asking Bobby Galinsky this once. I was like, "Where do I start?
Right.
Where do I start? I don't know. I'm overwhelmed. I've got so many things to do. Where do I start?" And he said, "At the beginning." So my best advice would be to grab the first theme and just focus on that. Don't even worry about the other ones yet. Obviously, you read the script from front to back, 3 or 4 times, whatever, how many times, and then I just start working on the scenes because you'll probably find that you're not in all of the film, so all those other little bits don't really matter to your character. So that's my advice is to just focus on that one scene. And when you feel like you kind of know that scene, then work on the next one because there's probably a good chance you're going to do 10 of those in one day. So you need to learn all of
yeah.
them for one day's work. So you just need to focus on that. And I'm really bad at learning lines. It never goes in. I just, I'm more of a listening and responding kind of person. So it's really hard for me to learn the lines. But experience has helped
That's
me.
the thing that I've always that's the thing I've always found fascinating about what you guys do, actors, like how you have to learn those lines and try and learn the lines to forget the lines. Like just completely brainwash yourself. Like that seems to me very overwhelming. How do you like? It must be a technique. I don't know how you guys do it. Like it's quite incredible learning all that.
The
It's a lot of
mind,
work.
the mind is amazing. The human mind is phenomenal. I can't believe that I remember the stuff.
Oh,
Like
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Dean. I just perhaps like dancers do. They just do the dance hundreds of times. They do the steps. So I read it hundreds of times, and I'm like Dean. I listening and responding. That's what triggers. See, if you're truly listening, the next line just comes. It's a weird phenomenon,
yeah,
isn't it, Dean?
yeah,
It just
Yeah. Well,
comes because
if you do, yeah,
it's in there.
yeah. I was just going to say, if you do the work, and all of a sudden you jump on, like, I'll give you an example. The other night, I was up to my seventh theme for the night, and I just totally forgot this one. This one slipped out of my. I know I've done heaps of work on this, and I was help. The makeup artist was helping me with the lines, and she was looking at me as if you're effed. You are effed, boy, because like you're about to go on, and you're all over the shop. But it's like riding a bike.
Oh no.
If you those little tool
yeah,
belts that you had, all those little tools you got in your tool belt, the acting tool belt. She
yeah,
looked at me after I did the thing and she was like, "Fuck, did you do that? Because we just did it 15 times in the back room and you didn't get it right once. But then on action,
wow,
when I'm listening and responding, all of a sudden
yeah,
there it is, and it comes naturally. It's like riding a bike.
yeah, wow. Like,
So
And
yeah,
to speak to Dean's advice, I actually think even in performance, even in theatre, or even when you've got scenes back to back with a project, Dean's advice is solid. When you're learning it scene by scene, also when you're performing it, if you start trying to take on the whole show or project in that moment, like Dean's great advice, it's so overwhelming. You can't do
oh, it
that.
is.
You
Yeah,
can't think about the whole journey of the piece. You just have to think about that moment right
here and
then.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, right. And that's what you hear moment to moment all the time, because the opposite or the alternative is mind boggling. You just freeze. How could any
yeah,
human being take all that on in one moment? No, you just take on the moment. And then you might have a line and then they have a line and you're just in that moment. And it's just gentle, gentle. And that's how you can get through a scene. What
yeah.
are your thoughts on
yeah.
that?
Luke.
Um, oh, like there's a good point. Oh, what was I going to say? There's something that just kind of come to my mind. I don't know if it's similar, related, or off topic, but so you guys are obviously like I would class you as you've got a lot of experience behind you. I think you guys are experienced actors. Now, there's been actors where I've worked with in the past where they I don't know, they learn the lines and they just keep stumbling the lines. They keep forgetting. Is that normal as well for people to get overwhelmed to the point where they have to keep
I'll
thinking
just
about the
say something
lines? Is
right
that
now.
normal or
See, you see how
yeah,
you just said what you just said then? You were sort of stumbling, right?
yeah,
When you just did that. So that's fine. If you're stumbling the words, don't. I just want to tell all the new actors out there, don't worry about getting every single word perfect. Because if you do that in the scene, it's fine. Because it doesn't matter. Because that's human. That's what we do.
yep,
That's human nature. So we stumble all over the words all the time.
yeah,
Yeah. So Steve, if you're going to need to add to that, I just I think
Well,
it's you don't.
I have been on set before, and
Okay.
I feel for your situation, Dean, when you're about to go on and you haven't got it. And I've been in that predicament before. It's not encouraging, is it? I mean, I don't know how you mustered up the courage when you're going on and you're like, it suddenly dawns on you, I'm not prepared enough, right? And
Yeah.
yep,
if you're good, you'll learn that lesson. That was a tough one for me. That was an embarrassing professional moment for me. I
yep,
thought I was more prepared than I was, because perhaps the previous project was a little easier to remember or whatever. I don't know. And I got on that set that day for this one scene, and for the life of me, I was just a shocker. And I wasn't prepared enough. And I only knew that then, and that's terrifying. So my only adage to that is just overlearn the lines, in the hope that you can fly free.
It'll
I
come.
still
It'll
agree with
come
what
back to
Dean
you.
was saying. Yeah, but
Yeah.
don't underlearn them.
No, that's the thing. I overlearned them, and then on the day when we went for it, I just said to myself just before we went for the take, mind you, he said, by the way, you're going to be eating this Ben and Jerry ice cream throughout the scene. I'm like, okay, just add more flavour to the scene, more obstacles. But then I thought to myself, I just quietly thought to myself, okay, there's a lot of back and forth here. It's a two-way conversation. Just listen and then respond to the answer. You know the answer. You've learnt the answer. Just listen and then respond to the answer. And yeah, so it came, and and I don't say this by being arrogant or anything, but when you've sort of nailed it because you look around and everyone's sort of like, they got that giggle going or like, yes. That you can feel it in the room that, wow, this guy, he's done it.
Yeah.
You can feel the energy in the room. And you can also feel the energy in the room when you don't nail it. It's a bit weird. And it's like, okay, they're all.
It's funny you mentioned that, Steve. Like you're saying that you could be prepared up to a point, and then I found it the same thing with filmmaking. Like I can be prepared, think I'm prepared, or like yes, cool, and then when it happens on every set, that when you get on there, things constantly change and evolve, and I suppose it's similar, like with acting and filmmaking. Like you can get prepared up to a point, and then at the end of the day, you just got to let it go. And let it evolve and grow and things like that. I suppose that's the whole creative process, isn't it?
And I think with every win, it's like in life. When you have a win, you can go, okay, what did I do? I won there. That was good. Okay, I did A, B, and C. Well, next project, I'll do A, B, and C. And that might be my recipe. And you might find that when you do A, B, and C, that solves it for you.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Luke, what you said is 100% true, because all of a sudden new obstacles come in your way. Little example, one of my very first scenes on a television show, I had all the dialogue and I spoke like a police officer, and I don't usually speak like this. And there were 6 other characters in the scene, and they, as you know, on TV, they shoot all the other people and then they finally shoot you. I nailed it every time when the camera was not on me. As soon as the big old camera went straight in face and the boom's right there and everyone's looking at you and there's 100 people and then go action, I forgot the lines, but I just done it 6, 7 times in a row and nailed it. And I remember one of the main actresses, one of the regulars, walked up. She walked up and she goes, "That's all right. We know that you've learnt the lines because you've just done it 6 times, but now we get it. It's nerve wracking when the camera goes in front of you. So that's why you need to be over prepared for moments like that when you can let that go."
Yeah. Which now it's funny you talk about that, mate. Like so I'm going to get into about so what I've learned doing the films, or up to my now with my understanding and things like that. It's about you got to believe what you're doing. You got to feel what you're doing. If the actor can believe or feel what he or she is doing, then it's honest. Now, do you got one of the this is a little in set moment. So I've worked with Dean now on a couple of different films. One of the where we basically first met was I was involved. I wanted to do a follow-up story, a prequel to The Count that we shot back in 2011 or 2010, 2012. Anyway, it was a follow-up. It was supposed to be a prequel, though. Anyway, I was talking to Dan Hill about it, which was one of the main actors in the film and things like that. And I was in the supermarket at the time in Bendigo up at IGA, and he was on the phone talking. I was getting really excited, things like that. Anyway, so what happened was I started to visualize a new home invasion with a bunch of new guys and things like that, and I wanted to evolve from so we had 2 cameras in The Count that were basically cutting back and forward like that. That was the whole film. So this time I wanted to have about 6 cameras, so stage cameras everywhere, like on balconies, under
Wow.
staircases, things like that. I just wanted to up the antes on everything that I did. Anyway, I was working with a guy, an actor, doing some scenes. I went down there on the V Line bus, and one day I had gastro. I was crook as a dog. I was like, and things like that. But I still went down there and was helping him with these scenes and doing rehearsals and looking for locations and shit. Anyway, he ended up deciding not to go with me at the end. I had to find out later, but he told me about this particular actor he wanted me to look into, and his name was Dean Kirkright. And this Dean's been going around, and things like that. He's been making a name for himself, things like that. Anyway, I'm like, okay, I'll check him out. So I remember one day I was up at the reservoir up in Strath, and I was sitting there on this little seat, and I think I've told Dean this story. Anyway, I just so happened to get on Star Now, and I look up Dean's profile, and I see his profile pic, and I see he's done a lot. Anyway, I watched his show reel, and this is the thing that enticed this is the thing I look at when I cast and things like that. So this might help you guys a bit as well. So I was looking for something in particular, so I do a lot of impactful presentations, like in your face, things like that. So and there was this scene that Dean did in a short film called Torn, and he plays this a character by the name of Ethan. Anyway, he's on the phone, and this bloke's on the phone, and Dean's like, "Hang up the phone," and he says it again to him, "Hang up the phone." And he says, "Hang up the fucking phone." He's like mouth shaking and things like that, and I thought, my God, that's impact. That just grabbed me, and I said, ever since then, I said, I've got to get this bloke in the movie. Anyway, I remember ringing him one day. I got his number, and I rang him, and I was traveling through Horsham, and I pulled up in this little park. And I remember ringing this bloke, and then Dean gets on the phone, and he's like all full of energy and things like that. Anyway, I said, I've got this film that I want to shoot. It's a home invasion, and we're going to film it up in Apollo Bay and things like that. And I remember Dean's like, "Yep, I'll do it, yep," because he's just come off Blood Hunt, you see. So and Blood Hunt's a feature film directed by Sam Curtin. Anyway, he just gets off that project, comes down. That's where I met Dean, and we've had a long history since. I got him in Snap Factory, my latest feature film. I got him as playing the detective in that, and one of the things I was very impressed with what Dean did is, and he's done it in 2 of my films now. I think the first film with the home invasion, I remember him doing push-ups on the kitchen floor, getting psych himself up, things like that. And there was another thing that I recall, another little story. I remember we were doing a scene where the cop was talking to the receptionist, and I remember Dean's line was something like, "Have you seen Michael today? Have you seen Michael today?" And he was like, he's actually going around just saying it to everyone. "You seen Michael today? You seen Michael today?" And the camera's rolling. He's like, and then he just goes straight into it. And I'm like, fucking professional, man. That's so good.
Yeah. So if I can throw any advice to up and
Sorry, I know
coming
that was a long
actors there,
story, guys.
but that's okay. If I could throw any advice to taking risks in scenes is you usually get a first take where you can show your own magic. Now, Jim Carrey's is probably the best example. I'm sure he doesn't say to the director, "Do you mind if I do this?" He doesn't. He just does it, and then the director goes, "That's it," or "No good. Let's do it again." So in that moment where I said, "Hang up the phone, hang up the phone, hang up the fucking phone," I didn't think that. I didn't plan it. I didn't ask the director, "Should I?" I just did it. It just came naturally. I felt it was. I think I was blinking my eyes at the time. I didn't even know, and it was natural, and I did it. So, if my advice was for the new actors out there, is just you don't have to ask. You don't have to ask the director,
Yep.
"Can I do this?" Just give it a crack. And that scene that you just said when I was in the police station, that scene was a continuation of another scene. So I sort of thought, I've got to make it look like it's flowing from another scene. So I was like, "What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Have you seen him? Have you seen him? Have you seen him? Action!" And then we went into it and we did it. And we know it was, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it's an amateur production, a medium production, or if I'm doing a big, huge production, I will still do it. I'm not going to change anything just because there's some big James Cameron or whatever it is. I'm still going to do it. And he's going to go, or
I was just saying, and that's what I try to encourage, because I come from a bit of an acting background and I direct and things like that. I try to encourage the actor to do it your way. Show me, and then I will fine tune if needs be. But you're playing that character. You do it your way. I want to see
Yeah.
it, and then we'll take it from there. We'll do one of mine, and
continue on with that advice. If the director says no, that didn't work, you need to trust that because he's the director or she's the director, and you need to trust that, and you need to bring it back a bit. You can't just go, well, hang on a minute, I'm the character, and get your ego get in the way. Just bring it back. Steve, you got anything on that one? Got anything to add?
Yeah, yeah, completely agree. Worth trying things. I was just on set with my own mind while you were talking. Yeah, not everything works, but yeah, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Usually more often than not, on those first takes, there's a technical problem anyway. So you haven't really got anything to lose or risk. There might not be a technical problem, but if you try things early, they might not even say anything, and you'd just be like, "Oh, okay, I just added what I wanted. No one said anything. Great, it's in. Let's keep moving with that." And if you've got cool yeah, and then you move on, and you already know they're going to use it, so there's nothing to lose. Great advice.
That's right. Exactly.
But do you find that? I find that a lot. Usually, there's technical stuff on the first few takes, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a play area here now. They haven't, whether it be the DOP or there's a sound issue or whatever, which is fine because everyone's just getting it right. But it's a pretty cool, safe area to have a play sometimes if the feeling's right. Do you agree?
Well, this might actually go back to what Luke was saying earlier with studying and doing short films. Maybe I got away with it because I did so many short films, and I mean they're starting out as well, so they don't know any better. Like, oh, that's cool, do that again. So it's like all of a sudden, it's like, oh, everyone's saying it's cool what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep doing it, and boom. But whereas if you're in a class situation, the teacher who's got 20, 30 years experience will go, no, don't do that. No. So when you're on a set, all of a sudden that student that's been doing this class for 12 months will go, nah, he said don't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take a risk. So I don't know. There's a fine line there.
Well, I think I go in with an idea, but I'm very loose with it. Like I will stick to it, but I'm loose with the idea because I want to let you guys play. Because one of the things I learned when I did Snap Factory was, I actually enjoy it. I love it, believe it or not, when an actor tries something that I'm not expecting or just goes and does something. Because I like to let them play and let them have fun and explore. And like, for example, there was a scene where Petros Gadara Michael's tied to the chair in the center of the room, the Snap Factory and shit. And he's got the light bearing down on him and things like that. And then I remember there was a scene where the whole purpose was Scott Reed, who plays Dex in the film, and Stephen DeGennaro, who plays Krauser. They grab Michael and they're holding him, and then they throw him into the room and they say a line. And as they leave, Stephen DeGennaro just so happened he went a bit improv a bit at the end there, and he walks in. He goes, "Oh, lights out," and he smacks the light. And then he walks off, and that wasn't scripted. That wasn't in the film. He just went and did it, and I thought that's cool. I like that. They're playing, they're trying different things, they're exploring, and I find that enjoyable, the creative process of that, and yeah.
I'm just going to say that Steve. Sorry, I was just going to say, Steve, that every now and then your camera goes blurry, and I'm getting massive Ralph Macchio, the guy who played Karate Kid. I'm getting those vibes going right now every time. The karate. You look like the Karate Kid right now.
Yeah.
I'm fanboying.
I appreciate that. I was not expecting that. I would have accepted Matthew Broderick, but I wasn't expecting.
Is that Ralph Macchio?
Karate
Ralph Macchio?
Yeah.
Are you saying it?
I'll
You're getting it? No, it's only when it goes blurry. I'm saying Ralph.
About now. Yeah. We'll just pretend.
It's
Anyway, sorry, Luke.
That's all right.
it's so unfair, those things. See, my camera remains beautifully poised
Yeah,
and
yours are a
clear,
bit blurry, but it
and the others are a bit blurry. So I'm sure Dean's looking at himself, going, "I'm presenting well tonight." You know,
It's the blurriest.
crystal clear.
Yeah.
Is it really? Because I feel like I'm not clear at all. It's so bad.
No,
This is my very.
not, but I'm hoping it'll be all right. Yeah.
No.
But
That's all right. We can blur
good
my
thing
face
I know
out.
your voice. I think I know it's you. Yeah, it's for
How's that?
anonymity. You've got to blur it.
Just getting back to it,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes a good, me personally, what I've learnt now, I feel like that's a good quality to have as a filmmaker. I think you've got to find that balance between knowing your vision, knowing what you want, but also giving the actor the freedom to explore and try things and make it real and believable, and just have that balance. And
Yes.
I just really enjoy that. I don't want to be completely strict on something and say no, unless there's something in particular I want. I'll go down that path. But I think you guys are like, that's why we assign the roles to you, because we trust you. We believe in you to portray that character, the gold aura, as I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I just find that really.
It's interesting to hear you say that.
Trust is a big one. Yeah.
It's our job to trust the filmmakers too, because if we start saying, oh, you should do that, you should do that, you should do that, that's not our job. We should be focusing on what we're doing, and not. I'm not a big fan of the actors out there that start telling some of the crew on how to, or what they should be doing. Like, that's the crew. Like, they've been assigned, they've been given that role for a reason, because they're the best person for that part, and you're the best person for your part. So if you're one of those guys who says you, and you, stop it, because it doesn't work, and no one likes it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, this is a question, guys. What do you usually do after? Okay, you've just wrapped up on a project. You've been heavily involved in it. You've just wrapped up on a project and things like that. And you're playing the waiting game and things like that. Like, what do you guys usually do? Like, do you take a break because of the demand, the amount of demanding work, or do you just jump straight into something again, or just give us a bit of a rundown or an idea of the mind of what you do when you're working on something, and it just comes to a stop, and you're playing the waiting game, and that's it.
Yeah, well, after I wrap on a project, I get immediately extremely sad every time, and I guess it's grieving the end of that.
Yep.
I care immensely about both the character I'm playing and the world immensely, and I love that. And I get sad. I've been known to long to meet those people. Like I was saying, the mind is weird and incredible, that we create an imaginary world of characters that doesn't actually exist. It does when you watch the project, but it's all just here, and like our life and our memories. And I get really, really sad, and so I just tend to isolate a little, have as long as I need just to chill, and then I know it just comes upon me. One day I go, I'm going to have a look at some briefs. I'm going to see what the next project is, and I'm going to see what's out there, what comes my way, what resonates with me. And this is a subject I want to hear your insight on, but I want to hear Dean's response to this question. So I'll remember what this is. We'll come back to it, and it's on the subject of choosing roles. But what do you do when you finish up with a role, Dean?
Oh, look, it's different for me at the moment, because I'm not really involved in the industry anymore. I say that, but I'm still doing something.
Yeah.
I guess it's confusing, because I'm not like, I don't have an agent.
You,
I don't have any of that stuff. When I was acting, like let's just go back to 2014 or 13 when I had everything. I had the Star Now profile, the IMDb photo was up. I had it all set up. Had the agent, all that sort of stuff. If you were to go back in those days, I had to go straight on to another one. But you were sort of busy makes business. So what happened was you'd be sort of coming to the end of a project, and all of a sudden, because you're working, someone else wants to work with you, and busy makes business. So you end up finding yourself in another project, and it's kind of like perfect timing because, like me going from Blood Hunt to the count the next day or whatever, is it no, it was the count the next day, wasn't it? Going
Yeah,
from that to
Mexico.
that,
Yeah.
I was already warmed up as you can be. Like I just did this huge bloody uh, intense thriller horror film in Tasmania, and I went like 2 days later. I was on Luke's film doing his film. And that's why I was doing push-ups because that was like I was already in that mindset of.
In the
So
zone.
it's really good
Yep.
to do that. And then one would go, well, hang on, I don't get an offer each time, but that's because it's busy makes business. You've got to put yourself out there, and you've just got to, yeah, just try and get your fingers in as many pies as possible, and yeah,
Yep.
I don't know. That's just how it's different for everyone, but I just loved working on film after film after film after film. And that's just how it was for me
Yep.
because I just loved telling another story or playing a different character. And then when you get offered another
Yep.
role, which is similar to a role you've already played, you're like, oh, I don't have to do much work on that role because I've already played that guy. I'll just remember that. I'll pull that tool belt out and wear that one today.
Yeah.
So it's good
That's
fun.
right. I always felt like when I did my role when I played Jericho and the Count and stuff like that. I've told this story about a million times, but I felt like I built such a relationship, such a bond, a connection with the people. It was so intimate on set. You know what I mean? Like you build.
mm,
It's like they're like your family. It's like friendship. It's the bond is so tight. You know what I mean? And working
Mm,
on for a long period of time, like I did, and then for just knowing that's it. The films come to an end, wrap, everything stops, everyone goes their own way. I had a hard time trying to drop that for a very long time. It's very similar to you, Steve, where you just become really emotional and things like that. Because you just invest, and I suppose Dean, because you do so many of them, did you ever get like that, or were you? How do
oh, of
you?
course,
Because
yeah,
you
of
seem to
course.
just go from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but the thing is it never ends. The friendships can stay together if you want to stay friends. That's just people being lazy. Oh, we've finished a film together, but what you can't ring them up if you really like someone on that film set. You can stay friends with them, become best friends with that person. But it never
Yeah,
ends because in 9 months' time, guess what? The film's going to come out, and in that 9 months, you're probably going to do ADR, which is the sound. You're going to do a whole heap of things, and you're going to have wrap parties, and you're going to have premieres, and then you'll have that DVD, or these days you'll have it on Netflix, and you can show it to your kids and your grandkids, and it never ends. It's always there, and that's the cool thing about it. And that's probably why I love going from
yep,
set to set to set because I know it's going to end, and I don't want it to end, so I want to continue that with
yeah,
another family. Um,
yep,
but yeah, it's hard for me because it was so long ago when I was like that. These days, I don't even think about it as much.
yeah, yep, yep, yep.
it is like a
Um,
photo album. It is like a photo album watching the projects back because someone who wasn't there on set would just see the story presented, which
yeah,
you can do when you revisit these DVDs or these links or whatever these projects, and it's really special to just watch. Sometimes I just get an old project out and go, wow, yeah, remember where we shot that and who we shot that and all the anecdotes. It's beautiful. It's really
Mm,
beautiful. And I guess all of those projects make up your life, and that's your career,
memories,
and
isn't it?
they're your
Yeah,
memories. Yeah,
yeah. No,
yep.
it is very good. Yeah. Um,
But the only problem is when you
so
watch the films back, you're like, Jesus, I look good then. I did look good. I did look good. And
Yeah, yeah,
you're like, I put on a bit of weight
yeah,
since then. I probably shouldn't have eaten that ice cream. And then so
yeah.
that's the only problem you
Uh,
got with it. It's a reminder of what you used to,
Yeah.
but that's just like life.
Good times, isn't it? I think that's the thing I enjoy the most about filmmaking is the just the good times that you have on set. You know, I just really enjoy
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about it. You just can't beat it. It's unlike anything we've it's unlike any thing we've. It's rare. Like people don't do this. You know what I mean? Normal people like it's just I don't know. It's incredible. Yeah, it's awesome. Now we did talk a little bit about networking and things like that. What's your view on networking for actors starting off, things like that? Like, do you think it's important? Do you think it's good? Does it have its benefits? You know, what's your take or your view on networking in the acting world and things like that? Think it's
Well,
important?
I'm not really sure anymore because harkens back to what I asked earlier about the networking side of things. Um, I guess when you've been around the industry a lot, you're liable to run into people you know. But then, at the festivals and that, I don't know. There's everyone's welcome, aren't they? I mean, not everyone's so. Some people are awkward or shy, or not everyone's life of the party networker, which can be really hard because there's some amazing actors that are incredibly shy, and
Well,
they hang out. Yeah.
what about more like let's say tips for first time film actors that are starting off, things like that. Can you give us some advice like for these young people that are just starting off? Like, where do you reckon
You
what do you think they should do?
Well, these are my thoughts. You have to go out and be amongst things. You
Yeah,
can't just be on your computer. You have to be at places, or no one will know you exist. And
yeah,
that's tough because if you got life and work and commitments, and it's really tough, and that it costs money to get tickets, it costs time. It's tough, but I just think you gotta be around people, and the only reason I say that is because that's what I did when I started, and that's how you listen to your anecdote. That's how you started when we met with the Radev
yeah.
screening,
That's right.
um, and Dean with his nights that he hosted. So
Yep.
there has to
Yeah.
be something in that.
If there's any advice that
Yeah,
I
being
could
out and
give,
about.
Sorry.
sorry, if there's any advice I could give is to start off, if you're just an up and coming actor or you want to give it a go, start off doing a short course. Don't dive straight into the big 12-month course. Do a short course, which usually goes for about 12 weeks, and that will give you a sort of an insight of, do I like it? It's like golf. You play around a golf, all of a sudden you got the bug, and you play every week. And then, if you get the bug, go off and somehow find yourself a short film that you can do. And then all of a sudden, the rest will just flow. And you'll end up finding your
Yeah.
journey will just go wherever it needs to go. But just start off with a short course. And then if you like it, short film. If you can't get into a short film, make your own film. Make your own film.
I was just about to say that.
And
Go and
then
make your own stuff. Yeah.
make your own stuff. And then if you can't, whatever. And then it'll just flow. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you'll be like, holy shit. You're sitting with Oprah and you're talking to Oprah about how you got into acting.
Yep. Now, what about
Hang on,
like
is
so?
hang on,
Oh yeah.
is Luke
Oprah's really
Oprah in
old.
this analogy?
Oprah's like a really old lady. He's like 150. Anyway,
Oh jeez. So what about like let's say websites like Star Now or what about headshots? Let's talk a little bit about like because you're a product, obviously you're trying to sell yourself at the end of the day. So you think that stuff's important? I'm guessing
you're on, Steve.
show reels, things like that.
Oh yeah, well yes, yeah, yes. Simple answer.
Of course.
Yep. Says me who needs a new headshot. But
What about
it never
any
ends. Never
any
ends.
any any other websites, like any other things that can come to mind?
I've actually, I have a big insight into Star Now. I was one of their I'm quite old, even though my moisturising regime has served me okay.
Karate Kid, yeah.
Star, yeah, Karate Kid, Karate Man. Star Now has been around a long time. I don't know if you know, but Backstage purchased Star Now a few years ago. They didn't advertise that a lot, and they restructured the entire thing. That's neither here nor there. But I have been a member of Star Now since they were very humble beginnings. I don't even think they had 1,000. Yeah, there you go. I don't even think they had 1,000 members when I was a subscriber of Star Now. And real early enough, it was just a total hit. I mean, no one was on it, and just you had the pick of the litter with films and quality films, and I think it's been a phenomenal a tribute to the work I've done. I've got most of my projects with independent films all through Star Now. Yeah, I found it really good. There used to be a way before the website of Star Now.
Filmnet.org.
Filmnet. Oh my God! You know.
Filmnet.org.
Right. And it, oh my God! You know.
That's where Tom Bungle used to promote.
That's so cool. We're kindred spirits, Dean.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is so old. Do you? You're probably a bit younger than us, Luke. Eh? Do you remember the
I don't
film
remember that. No, I started off on Star Now, and then
filmnet.org. .org.
Yeah, they had the they had the internet when Luke started. But Filmnet was incredible. We didn't know Star Now would ever come about. Filmnet was a message board.
Oh, and forum, was it?
It was a forum.
Yeah, it was a forum.
It was incredible.
That goes right back.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was in its infancy, but it was the only way people connected. Yeah, and they'd do the bulletin board. You know, they'd say these films. You know, I haven't thought about that for so long. Wow.
I started off on Star Now. That was how I found a few actors, and then once I knew a few people, and one thing would lead to another, I just didn't really need it anymore. Because I had a database of people that I've met, and I just kind of just knew. I do a lot of I still do a lot of Facebook connecting with people online with Facebook, mutual friends, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, not so much Star Now anymore. Maybe I used to use that like in the earlier days, but not so much now.
Should we talk about auditions where you freaked out in auditions, Steve?
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit about that. Yeah, I haven't got
that. Because auditions are very freaky. Like they're just as freaky as they're actually scarier than actually getting when you get the role. You're all sorted, but getting the audition, like there's a lot of actors that are probably watching this right now who haven't had an audition, and what to expect.
What it reckons like? Do you think what's more stressful, actual proper auditions or self tapes? And like, I suppose self tapes is not really that stressful, or is it? The process and that.
I've never really done the self tape thing.
Point of contention.
Yeah, I've just thrown it in there. Sorry about that, but I'll just.
You go. Yeah.
This is more for the actors that are sort of just starting out. There's no rules. There ain't no rules. See, I come from a background of we had to walk in. I've never really done the videotapes. What do you call them? What do you call them? You just said it then. Self tape. I've never really done that. I wasn't really in the industry when that was around. Well, it's around now, but I had to walk into the room and prove myself there. Do they still do that? Are they still doing that, or I don't know?
But it's heavily favoured upon the self tape. You often callbacks and chemistry reads you're getting in the room, but before then they'll just churn through just hundreds of self tapes. Yeah.
Well, it was a real pain in the bum because you had to sort of take a day off work and you had to go in to do this audition, which they either loved you or they hated you, and they didn't really give you much information. And it was like, I just took a whole day off for that 20 minutes of my life. And I obviously, spent a lot of time learning the lines. And yeah, so I remember that. And now it's probably a little easier when you're doing the self tapes. To be able to,
Yeah.
you can sort of get the perfect audition, can't you? Sort of.
Well,
Or you're not
so I'm
really reading
told,
opposite
Dean.
anyone. How does it work?
So I'm constantly told you can get the perfect audition. Well, when I used to audition in the room, I had a wonderful strike rate because I'm a people guy,
Yes, you
and
are.
um, and furthermore, I am excellent at taking notes. And so not everyone's good at that. Everyone's got their own strengths. I'm very good at taking a note from a director, and I can change direction. Okay. You cannot do that with a self tape. You never get the
Yeah.
feedback and you never get a note. So you can try whatever you like, and good on you. But this is the issue. I have a bit of pushback on the self tape because there's no notes. You present what you think's an option, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can be over here and they want you over here, so you just don't get the role with a self tape. Or they say, "Oh, Steve, could you just try it this way?" And then you give them exactly what they want, and they go, "There's
Yeah.
our man."
Yeah.
You don't get it with a self
Yeah.
tape, and I've auditioned and got roles with self tapes, but I feel like it really really favors the casting process rather than perhaps the actor's process.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I could get
Yeah.
slaughtered for these remarks. Oh my goodness!
No, it's
But
good to
I know,
take
that's
notes.
just how I
and same with
found it.
me.
That's
Same with me. And I come from the background obviously where you have to walk in the room, and then for all you new actors out there, and I say just take the risk. There's no rules.
Mm.
Uh, I'll give you an example of an audition I went to for a feature film, which did really well. And it was a good little film. Anyway, so I had to play the bad guy in the audition, and they said to me, "We just want you to get upset. We're going to interrogate you. You're in a police room interrogation situation. We're going to interrogate you. Just get upset. Just get upset. And then when we feel like you're upset enough, then we'll call cut and we'll finish the audition." And this girl's interrogating me, and I'm getting upset. She's interrogating me. I'm getting upset. And it was just going on and on. And I actually ended up getting really fucking upset. And I just used this moment. And I said, fuck all you guys. Fuck this situation. Fuck you, you, and you. There's all these panel of people. I'm telling everyone to get fucked. I threw the table. I threw the laptop on the ground. And I fucking walked out the room and slammed the door in the audition.
Oh wow.
And then
Yeah.
in the room, there was a whole room of people all like, like looking up or whatever. What the fuck's going on there? And I'm like, just give me a sec. And I open up the door and I'm like, was that angry enough for you? And they're just sitting there like that. And I got the part.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people wouldn't
Oh
do
wow,
that
man, that's
because it's
awesome.
like, that's too risky. Maybe I fucked it for everyone. Maybe they're like,
Mate, that's
nah,
what
not
that's
another
what I
ding.
like. Me, I'll just say something real quick. That's what I look for. Like as a filmmaker, I want to see that shit. It excites me. Like I want to see the full potential that actor has to give. So you are right. Just go in there and fucking do it. Wing it. Just go
Well, I just
nuts.
flipped, because it was ad lib dialogue. I just flipped it on its head and I made the audition about this situation, and I'm not real happy how you brought me in here and you're fucking wasting my time and fuck you and what are you looking at? And I just went crazy and I threw the table and it was just full on. And
Yeah.
there's little things like that. And I'll give you another example. These little examples are cool. So basically, I moved to Sydney because my buddy got a role on Home and Away, and I moved up there with him. And my agent rang me and said, "Oh, have you moved to Sydney yet?" And I remember being in the shower, and I've got the shower on. I had to turn the shower off. I'm like, "What?
oh yeah.
Why? What's up?" And she goes, "You've got an audition with Nick Hammond Casting, I think it was. Does he do ads? Yeah, I think it's him. Nick Hammond Casting." And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, "You're in Sydney, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah, I'm in Sydney." And she goes, "Oh, that's a shame." And then she goes, "You can't go for the audition, can you?" I go, I'll fly down. I'll fly down for it." And she's like, "You're not going to fly down for the audition."
Oh
And
wow.
she and I actually said this. I said, "You're cutting out. You're cutting out." And I hung up on her. She knows this story. So if you're watching, it's fine. And I rang up Nick Hammond Casting and I said, "Oh, hi," because she said that he wanted to see you. And I said, "Oh, hi, it's Dean here. Oh, hey, mate, how are you in Sydney?" I go, "No, I'm actually in Melbourne. When do you want me to pop in? Can I pop in later in today? Because I got a few things on." I was lying. I had to fly to Melbourne. So I flew to Melbourne. I got off the phone to Nick Hammond, rang up Alison and said, Alison, I've got an audition at 4 p.m. And she's like, how'd you do that? And I go, I'll talk to you about it later. See you later. By the way, don't talk to your agent like that. She'll kill you.
That's insane.
And then I flew down and I did the audition like it was nothing. And I got the part. And Alexi Velas was directing it. And it was for a WorkSafe commercial. And I remember standing next to Alexi Velas when we were doing the scene. And I go, so can you tell me, did you cast me because I flew all the way from Sydney for the audition? He looked at me and goes, did ya? He goes, no, I cast you because you were the best. You were the best person for the fit,
Wow.
for the role. You were the best fit for the role. And that
Yeah.
confidence from, that feedback gave me more confidence. Sorry, got something in the throat. But yeah, so it's this little
that's
trick.
part of your job as an actor, isn't it? You got to
I
sell
never,
yourself. You got to sell your yeah.
but when an opportunity presents itself, I'm in Sydney and the audition's in Melbourne, and I know it's a cattle call or whatever, but I'm going to go for it. And I know you can't probably do that these days. You can't just ring Nick Hammond randomly and just say, hey, it's different back then, I guess, but that's the shit that I had to do to get the role because
Yeah.
stand out. And one would think, oh, nah, if you do that now, you're just going to look like a dickhead. But whatever, got the role.
Building a name,
So,
yeah. And like which goes back to my thing, one person says you hear about this Dean Kirkright, he's gone and done a lot of things and stuff, and it just spreads. You know what I mean? Like it's just oh cool, I'll go and check him out. One thing leads to another, and all that, and your passion and your energy and your dedication, and it's all these things that you gotta factor into as well and stuff. So. You got to sell
yeah, and I
yourself.
didn't have an argument with the agency after that. She just turned around and went, "Oh, you cheeky boy, you cheeky boy," because that was our friendship, that was our relationship. So that was
Yeah,
that's kind of that was a yeah, and it was a good little role in a commercial that paid a lot of
yeah,
money.
obviously, yeah,
Yeah, I don't think they
yeah.
pay that kind of money these days for commercials. I'm not sure. Do you know what the going rate is for a commercial these days? Back then it was like 5 or 6 grand you'd get for a few hours.
Yeah, yeah. The whole industry's trimmed up with those sort of things, Dean. They
Ah,
the
okay.
offers are they're way smaller. And this is what's coming back to Star now. Wow, I have to dredge through the briefs. They're all they're after what are they called? Well, influencers, self-made content. Right now, I might sound a bit
Yeah.
stuffy here, but where's the marketing team writing the ads? And then I'll come and do the acting. No, now they want me to come up with creative ideas, pay me,
Oh, really?
10% of what they used to. And then, so they want me to come up with the idea, film it myself, and then pretend that I'll do a review for their product and all like this type of stuff is suffocating the industry. I want to act. I'm an actor.
Mm.
All right. I don't want to hold my selfie stick up and talk about, how much I love the sneakers someone sent me. Okay. Now that has a place and that's fine. I'm not dissing that if you are an influencer and that's your role in the world and you love it, that's great. You're not an actor. Right? So
Yeah.
that's really concerning to me. Because so many briefs, if you jump on Star now, Luke or Dean, and it's just so much of that stuff. It's not funny, and that's really concerning.
Even AI, Steve's starting to get a bit scary too. With especially you've seen the whole with the actors strike and things.
Fortunately,
like that.
the unions attacking that as best they can.
Look, AI has its place. Yeah. It's great for filmmakers and all that shit, but I understand. Yeah, you don't want it taking away actual people's, occupation. That's their income. That's their, that's how they make.
I don't know about you, but I love YouTube and I devour YouTube content. Love it, love it, love it. But this trend of people recording videos and getting great footage or whatever for their products or services, and then using an AI voiceover, it's so jarring to listen to. It just
Yeah.
makes me think so less of the business and
Mm,
company. But I think that
yeah.
they think that company thinks it's on trend, it's progressive, and they present really well doing that. Instantly,
Yeah.
it tells
Yeah.
me, red flag, red flag. If a company uses that, I don't care if you're a massive company or a local business, that AI voice just makes you look so cheap, in my opinion. Maybe I'm biased because I think, where's the voiceover artist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
But
So
hey, but I don't know. That's up in the air. What's going to transpire with that? It seems a bit doom and gloom, but it kind of is. So it is relevant.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about
Uh,
before. I remember how I said I had a bookmark I wanted to come back to. It
Yes.
was a
Yes, I
long
remember.
time ago.
I think you
Oh,
can
a
talk
long
about this
time ago.
though. I think you did go back to it though, Steve. I
That
think
was before the
we
Karate
Can
were
we?
Kid
You'll allow it?
conversation.
Okay. Um, what I wanted to raise, and I hope I articulate this well and don't come off silly. You mentioned, both of you mentioned when Dean was talking. Dean mentioned his anecdote just now about he got cast because he was the best guy for the job, right? How many scripts have you read where someone wants to cast you and they're like, "We want you for this. You'll be great," and you read it and go, "Nah, I'm not right for this." It might be the case Dean's better for it, and I'll say, "You got to call Dean. He's the guy to play
Right
this."
now.
Or,
Right now.
well, right now, what do you mean?
Right now. The show that I'm working on right now. What you're saying right now, I
Is
four
that
times knocked it back. Four times I knocked
how?
this back
Oh,
because I was
wow.
like, it's not me,
Okay.
it's not me, it's not me. And then I had a meeting with the writer and the producer, and they said, all right, we've got something to tell you. We actually wrote this with you in mind. And I can't really talk
I
about
love that one.
the
you
Yep.
feel
project too much.
obliged to do it,
And
mate.
how can you say no to that? So then I did it. So then I did the role, and I'm still doing it now. It's happening.
yeah.
And leading into doing it, I was like, I'm still not that guy. But then as soon as I put the clothes on, as soon as I'm doing the role, I'm like, holy shit, she was right. I am the guy. I'm that guy. And I had this
That's
conversation with another
interesting.
friend. He's like, oh, you know what? After reading the synopsis on the character, I reckon this other guy would be good, or this person, or that person. But now I'm thinking, no, fuck them. It's me. It's actually me. F them. They can do other roles.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying right now, Steve. It's like, how many times have you seen? Is that what you're saying? Like, you've seen a person in a role, or you're saying that you've been offered a script or something, and you can't see yourself in that role.
Yeah, I've had that a lot. I've had a lot because, particularly with new filmmakers, as I find, and this is understandable. Well, any filmmakers, but when you see a good actor, they're like, "I got to have this person on my project," right? And when you, like Dean was talking about, when you're hot to trot and you got a few projects running, everyone wants you to be in their
Yeah.
project, which is a great place to be. But I have a bit of a process when I read a script about
Yeah.
how I want to articulate this the right way. I have turned down projects because I didn't feel it. I didn't feel I was the best for it. And when I do a project and I'm committed, I believe I'm the best guy to play that role. I do. So much
Yeah.
so, I'm like, you have to have me. I'm that role, right? And sometimes it's so bleedingly obvious. It's like, of course.
It's
I
one.
was, yeah.
That's one thing I highly respect. That what I you the fact that you can see that you focus on you actually do quality work because of that as well. You know what I mean? Like you really just
Yeah, but
it's just
I'll just
thing.
I'll disagree. I'll
Yeah.
disagree there. Sorry, Lucky, because that's how I felt as
Yeah, that's all
well.
right.
I was like, but then when you get the
Yeah.
part and you start playing it, and then it progresses over time, and you're like, hang on a minute, shit, I am this guy, and You know what I mean. So it's like Steve,
Yeah.
you've probably knocked back a few roles in your time where you probably could have done justice to that role.
Oh,
I don't know.
sure. Yeah. Yep.
Is it? It's
No,
not
I think that's
because
an interesting perspective.
it's not because you probably worked on a lot of different really low budget, pretty crappy films, and then you've obviously matured and you want to work on better stuff. You don't think that's got a bearing into it as well, or
Well, I think one of the reasons I brought it up is in my time, I've always been fascinated when I'd say no to a project for whatever reason. And it's unfortunate when people take offense to that. That's a shame.
it does?
I've had
yeah, I know what it's
I've had friends write scripts and say, I'd love you to be part of it. And I'm like, oh, I'm working on something else, or I really like the project, but I don't want to do that particular role at this point, or for whatever reason.
Yeah,
And it's such
yeah,
a bummer when they really get hurt.
yeah.
Because I'm not saying their project's no good. I'm not saying they're no good. It's a multitude of things, right?
I think they're just.
But if I'm going to
solid.
invest,
Yeah.
if I'm going to invest in a project, I want to be awesome in that, and I want to deliver really well for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it hasn't helped me make a million things, I can assure you. And heaps of people have always been shocked and said to me, Steve, you're an actor, so you should just do any role you can get. I don't know, maybe it's a fulfillment thing. Like if I'm going to take on a role, I want to be able to give everything to that role and that project. And if I'm not feeling that, why would I selfishly sign up? Just to have a role, if I think someone else could be better at it.
I respect that, Steve, a lot because.
But having said that, I really appreciate Dean's input on it, because how many roles
It's
have I
weird.
turned down?
But it's weird because I
I
thought the
could have
exact
been
same thing. I was actually, but that to me, I was like, no, this has to be. I even have a conversation with a friend, like, who's some other people that we can sort of recommend, because they really want me to be in the role, but surely I'm not that guy. I feel bad because I don't want to do it. I don't really want to do the role because, and I hope this person, please, I hope you're not watching right now. But it's how I'm not, actually they know that I didn't want to do it because I knocked it back. I did knock it back a few times, and it's not about quantity. It's not like, oh, look at me, I'm in 1,000 things. It's not about that. This is a big project.
Quality
I'm
work.
talking about big
Yeah.
projects. When you get offered a bigger project, this is what I'm talking about. And they don't come often. They don't come like every second. You get a lot of short films offered, but not big projects or television guest spots or something like that. They don't come around very often. So when you get that
Yeah,
opportunity,
yeah.
which I got and I knocked it back, but then I thought to myself, I'm not that guy, but I know we're going around in circles. But then once I became day one on set, I became the character. And then day two on set, I was like, holy crap, I am this guy. I'm becoming more and more this guy.
Yeah.
And I would actually talk to the writer, not the director, because the writer wrote it and all that sort of stuff. But I'd talk to the writer and I go, do you think I should change? And they said, no, 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 no. You're the guy. You're the guy. The way you're doing it is exactly how I visioned it when I was writing it.
Yeah.
Not do it how Chris Hemsworth would do it. I don't want that. Otherwise, we'd go for Chris. Do it how you're going to do it because you're the guy. And then you just need to take that in and just own it.
Yeah.
So it makes you work
I
harder.
understand, because from a filmmaker's perspective, and that because we're the people that conceive the project from start to finish. We write, we do everything for it. So we see this vision in our head that I see Steve playing that character before I even cast it. I just know, and I think that's why we have their sights set on that particular actor, because they just, and I think they do when if you do knock it back, and that's when they, and stuff like that. But I think
it is so flattering. And I had a feature film written. I mean, I don't know if it gets any more flattering. I'm so happy for you. They said this, Dean. I had a feature film written with me in mind, and when they tell you that, it's like someone wrote and conceived a project with you in mind. I just think it's the most flattering
So this is
um,
a
thing.
TV
I'm
series.
thinking of a
Yeah.
project that was written. No, sorry. From my point of view, I had a project written
Oh yeah,
for me that
yeah,
we've done a
right.
lot of
That's awesome.
pre-production on. That's sitting there for finance and the filmmaking
Yeah,
guides. It's the best script I've ever read. I just love it. And will it ever get made? Who knows? But it's
Yeah.
awesome, and I'm so proud of all the work we've done.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm thrilled for you, Dean, that you had that experience too. It's just,
That's cool.
yeah, it's just so cool that someone would go to so much effort and creativity and thought and go, I guess it happens all the time, but I'm not writing films and TV series, but I guess you start with actors in mind, and then hopefully you can get the first person you ever think
It's
of
just
each
it's
time.
and it's just trying to find your character and just slot, just so, okay, Steve has these types of qualities, cool. I want to try and match it with this particular character because I reckon he'll do a really good job there. And it's just, you know what I mean. It's all just fine tuning and balancing and things like that. So,
yeah.
like
You
with
just
the
gotta, you have
contracting,
to,
like,
you just have to trust. You have to trust
yeah,
the
well, there was
filmmakers. You
like,
have to trust the casting directors.
for example, like a story between you and me, Dan, is like, remember we were working on the Next Day project, and that obviously didn't come to fruition because of I had my reasons and things like that. But I thought, no, I want to get Dean in another film of mine, and I actually wrote this character with Dean in mind.
There you go.
His name's
Character's
Dean
name's
Harvey,
Dean, right?
Detective Dean Harvey. Yeah. It's just I just
Yeah,
saw
that's always a
you.
good sign, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I just saw. I knew that was you, man. Like I just saw you and nothing else, and I just knew it was you, and you know.
You just have to trust, as actors, we have to just trust the casting. We have to trust the
Yeah.
filmmakers because this person had come to me, and after the fourth time, I said, they started name dropping of all the other people that are going to be in this film, and I'm like, I still don't want to do it because I don't see myself in the role. And then when I finally, you know, come to do the role, and you put the clothes on and all that sort of stuff, then all of a sudden, magic is made, and it's fun, and you're on a set, and it's awesome. And like, I'll give you a little example of years and years ago. You guys listening to this right now or watching this, you probably experienced this where you're sitting, and Steve, I reckon you've experienced this, when you're sitting in a casting room and you're going for a role, and everyone that's going for the role is older or younger or looks completely different, but they all look the same. And you're like, well, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going for a role in a show, and all of the people in the room were in their 60s or 50s. And it was to be a gay photographer on Neighbours called Anthony Steele. And I was the only person in that room who was in my 20s, and I just thought, why? Have they got the right person? And I got the part over them because they just tried something different. Because instead of having a 60-year-old gay photographer taking photos, they'd have a 20-year-old gay photographer having photos. And it's just, you see what I mean? So you've got to
Yeah.
trust. You've got to trust the filmmakers, and you've got to trust the casting directors.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
So
Yeah.
how's this gone? I appreciate if you can't talk about the project, Dean. How's it affected your personal life now, coming out of retirement, if you will, to frame it as you suggested? How's it affected your life? Have you had to quit your job? Are you on annual leave? What are the practicalities? I think listeners and watchers might appreciate some insight. What are the practicalities of the real life meeting the wonderful life as an artist? How's that affecting your life? How have you made it work?
Look,
And obviously
I'm a little,
as a family man.
I'm a little bit lucky. So when we had that fourth meeting or whatever, um, it was in negotiation that they could work around my job because I have a job, a full time job, and I'm lucky because I do have a lot of. I don't work very long hours, so they work me into the days that I'm not working, or if it's a late night shoot, they need to put me up because I don't live in Melbourne anymore, so they're shooting in Melbourne, so they need to put me up in Melbourne
Uh-huh.
which has kind of been cool because my characters I live in New York in the show, and they've found this really trendy Airbnb which they have. So when we're finished filming, I just stay there. It's like a really expensive, $1,000 plus a night Airbnb, which I just, which is kind of crap because everyone leaves and I'm on a high and I'm like, come back, let's party, let's get drunk. But I get, yeah, so they usually just let me stay there. So I'm lucky in that sense where they kind of look after me that way. So they're helping me out as much as possible to get me in their project. So it's been great. It's been really great. And now, this is the first sort of, well, it's the second project that I've had where I've got a daughter. So, she's at that age now where she's very needy. So it's very hard to learn lines at home because you're learning lines. And for all you actors out there that know what I'm talking about, it's very hard to concentrate when you got someone going, can I have some chips? Can I have some this? Can I have that? Can we go do this? Can we do that? La 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 la. So it's different.
Yeah.
It's different now. But you got to. I've never really been a big fan of the learning of the lines and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know. I remember Scott Major once saying to me, he's a good friend of yours, Steve. It's all part of the parcel. Because I said I'm not a fan of learning the lines. I hate that part of it. And he's like, it's all part of the parcel.
Yeah. You still enjoy acting in that, like, even though you had a bit of a break in that, do you still enjoy it, or is it a bit more?
Oh, I enjoy it. Yeah, of course. Especially that little, the giggles that you get after cuts called and because it's a comedy and like I don't know, just the socializing and all these people talking about because people love to talk like us now. I guess we're talking. But people love to talk about their previous experiences on set, and I just love to listen to it and hear about what they're doing. And there's all these new faces that I've never met before, and it's really cool. It's really good, and it's like riding a bike. You just jump straight back on the bike, and it's just like little things like I'll be doing a scene. But I was in the middle of doing a scene, and this is something that you would probably do, Luke, if you were acting in a scene. A tram went past, and I actually just paused. And then when the train went past, I just kept on going. And they're like, fucking thank God. The sound guy was just like, thank you so much. Oh my God, love you. But that's just the experience coming out. I knew that the tram was coming and there's no point clapping it again. Let's do the clapper again. Yeah, right.
You remember that? Remember when we did the next day project up in Apollo Bay in the house there? And I remember I was sitting behind the staircase filming everything. It was one shot wonder. We were filming everything, and I remember Dean. You used to say to me that you would keep the camera in your peripherals when you're doing a scene. Like you could know where the camera is, and then you can come into the shot, and you all those little things you gotta. I suppose you got to factor into when you're doing acting and stuff as well, don't you? You got to be somewhat aware, as much as you want to just completely zone out of it. You got to be somewhat.
I'm sure Steve
where the camera's positioned and things like that.
I'm sure Steve does it as well. I mean, if the camera's there and then the actor, your partner, is leaning forward, you'll sort of start leaning a little bit forward like this, and you're aware that the camera's behind the other partner, and you of course, Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, 100%. And that's all on set stuff. I love that technical stuff. I think it's awesome. And I love those anecdotes. I'm notorious for planes flying overhead, because only the sound guy with the boom can hear that plane a lot of the time. But I don't know if I got bionic ears, but I can hear the planes and I'll pause and stop. And other people are on set are like, what's happening? And the sound guy's just like, yeah, thanks, mate.
And that is the director coming out in you.
Notorious. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
That's the director coming out in you.
To be able to have usable takes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
good skill to have.
Yeah, and awareness. I mean, obviously, and also it's awareness of other people's jobs, Yeah. It's no use me being all great and acty in a scene and oblivious to what everyone else is doing. Like if there's a tram or a train or whatever, it's going to ruin the take, isn't it? You're not going to use the take anyway. Exactly. So you might as well try and save it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I suppose we'll wrap it up soon. I've got one more question to ask. You guys have been amazing to talk to. And that question is, I suppose you just talked a little bit about, but have you got any work lined up? Got any film jobs that you're working on at the moment that you can talk about or something like that?
I'm shooting this amazing porno at the moment. So just so you know, this thing that I've been talking about throughout the show,
VR, mate.
it's a porno,
Yeah.
and it's right. No, no. I'm shooting a TV series, and I can't talk about it too much, but it is the protagonist role,
Yeah.
which is cool, and it's working along
Yep.
some really cool people, and I'm playing a gay writer. That's all I can say.
Okay.
That's
all you
So
can
now
say.
you
That's
can
fun.
know. This is why I knocked it back 4 times, because I didn't see myself in that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, Steve?
Oh, well, how fun. Well, a lot of my bread and butter for sometimes been voice work. So I do a lot of voice work for shows in post-production. So that's ongoing and hopefully is ongoing. I don't take any job for granted, but that seems to continue on. So that's good. I
That's
just
good.
finished working on Asher Caddy's next show for Paramount Plus called Fake. So
cool.
when was that? On Friday. Yeah, I just did the little finishing touches of my voice work on that. And that looks like a great show. So that's fun. And I
She
am,
delivered my baby.
Speaking. I remember that episode in Offspring.
That's right.
Yeah, that was great.
Hey,
That
that's
was
6 degrees of
talking
separation
about
right there.
time. Yeah, and talking about sentiment and timeline and memories. We were housemates at that moment in time. That's how I remember that. That when you shot
There you
that
go.
and did that, yeah, we were housemates. So that's
Offspring.
how
That
cool
was
is
a good
that?
one. She won the gold Logie that year.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, because of your help. That's right.
It was all about that. Hey,
But
Luke,
yeah,
I've
in
got a
terms of
question for
projects,
you.
I'm. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
mate.
Oh, I thought we were moving on. So I was just going to say, Luke, have you got anything on the go?
I'm working my way down the list. I've got a bit of a structure now. I know what I'm doing now, which is really good. I think part of my problem was at the time I took on way too much work and I was jumping from job to job to job, chipping away, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And I wasn't really focusing. And now I've learned to just try and focus on one job, knock that out, move to the next, knock that out, and I've got a bit of a structure now that I'm sticking with. So at the moment, I'm currently in the middle of working on our official Shilling Entertainment website. I got the first draft sent to me 2 days ago, and I'm making a few changes and things like that, which is really good with the developer. And we've been talking for nearly a month now on the phone about and all that. And had to give content and that, so that's shaping up. So that should be coming out soon. And then I've got a couple of other little film jobs I've got to try and knock out. I've got a show reel I've got to knock out. And then I've got the Stat Factory trailers coming out after that. Official trailer, that's almost done. Just needs a bit of music and a bit of grading and done and stuff. The whole structure and everything's done on it. It looks really good. And then the film after that. And then I'll move on to my next project. I'm not going to take on too much. So, yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there, Steve. There's a really massive delay here. So I thought you'd finished. Sorry, mate. I've got a big delay here. So
Oh no,
I got like a 5 second.
That's all right.
That's fine. That's okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so that's kind of what's been happening and stuff in the works.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap? Is that a wrap?
I suppose we'll wrap it up. Yeah, but look,
could be a
guys,
wrap.
thanks very much for being on the show, and I hope you got a lot of information out of this. It's nice catching up with you again. And
excellent.
Yeah, I suppose we'll.
Thanks for having me on.
That's all right, and we'll stay tuned for the next episode of the Indie Directors Roundtable. I'm your host, Luke Launer, Steve Sheeran, Dean Kirkright. Yeah, I suppose bye for now. All right, see you guys. Bye.
See you, dudes.